This is Unity, Joy of Life. I'm Nancy Norman, and this is your weekly wisdom. I heard a story a number of years ago about a place in Mexico where there were hot springs, and right next to it were cold springs. They were found side by side. So the women of the village, it was wonderful because when laundry day came about, they would go down to the springs and they would wash all of their clothes in the hot water and then rinse them in that cold spring. Well, one day a tourist was watching the process and he commented to the guide. He said, "Whoa, I imagine that they think old Mother Nature is pretty generous to supply such an ample amount of clean, hot, and cold water right next to one another, side by side." And the guide shook his head and said, "No, senor. There is much grumbling. There is much grumbling because Mother Nature, she supplies no soap." In this great and opulent land, you and I tend to take things for granted. We get caught up in the busyness of life and we forget just how blessed we are. And we are so blessed. We are so blessed, and we have so much to be grateful for. You know, there are only two countries that have a national holiday acknowledging the gratefulness that we have, and that is the United States of America and Canada. Those are the only two countries. And I am so happy that it's a reminder. Thanksgiving is a reminder for us to practice these spiritual principles on a daily basis. Melanie Beatty once wrote, "Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow." Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. How true that is. Gratitude unlocks the goodness of life. There's power in gratitude. Life is always giving, and sometimes it doesn't always go the way that we want it to. However, acknowledging and being grateful for what is going right in our life each and every day can help us not only to work through our difficulties, but to transcend them. In Psalms 113, we read, "How great and glorious is our God." We can say that every day. How great and glorious is my God. From hour to hour, from day to day, our lives ought to overflow with praise and gratitude. God creates beauty out of the dust of our fallen natures. Out of the ashes of our failures, he brings forth meaning and purpose. He exalts the humble and enriches the poor. He transforms our weakness into channels of strength. Our emptiness becomes a vessel of his fullness. Our spiritual poverty, the basis for his eternal grace. Our errors and our mistakes are stepping stones to success. Our defeats are but incidents on the road to victory. How great and glorious is our God. How great and glorious is our God. From hour to hour, from day to day, our lives ought to overflow with praise and thanksgiving. With praise and thanksgiving. There's an old Estonian proverb that says, "Who does not thank for little will not thank for much. And Plato said over 2,500 years ago, a grateful mind is a great mind, which eventually attracts to itself great things. A grateful mind is a great mind, which eventually attracts to itself great things. I want you to know that I'm grateful for you. God bless you and have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving.